So now let's go take a look at a script that will allow us to create a table. So I've got a file. I'm going to say open a file. And here it is, my customers table. So here's the T-SQL code that allows us to create a table. And this is typically what T-SQL looks like. You have some action you want to do. And in this situation, we want to create. We want to create something. So then you identify what that something is. So I want to create a table, and then you give it a name, customers. And then you follow it with a parenthesis. Now the parenthesis says, here are the fields I want for this table. And then as you can see, it says customer ID, it's an integer, and it's not allowed to be null. It cannot be null. You have a company name, which is a variable character of 40, also not null. And notice that all of these are separated by a comma. So at the end of each one, you have the column name, the data type, do you want it to be null, and then you put a comma. And then you go to the next one. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but right here, address looks different from all of the others. Address is actually blue. And the reason for this is because address is a reserved word in T-SQL. So it literally says, oh, well, you want address, and this could cause a problem if you ever see this. The way you get around this is by putting a square bracket around it. The square bracket does not get included in the field name. You're not going to see address with square brackets around that. The square bracket says, oh, it's no longer the address command, or it's not the address T-SQL command. This is what I want to call this field. Name is another one. If you just had a field that you wanted to call name, that will also be blue. So you definitely want to put square brackets around that. So as you can see, it's going through and it says here are their varchar, and it's setting everything up. And then you finish it off with a right parenthesis, and then you give it the command go, which says I want to execute this command. So now what you'll do is you say execute, and command completed successfully, but you don't see it under tables. What you'll do is you right click on the tables and you say refresh, and now I can see my customers table. And if I look at this, I can go into design, and here's the design that we're used to. And what it did was it literally went out and it created that table using T-SQL, which is really what this command does. This interface allows us to select our column names, select the data type, choose whether it's null. We can also change any of the properties for any of the columns. And then when we tell it to save, it literally behind the scenes writes that T-SQL code and executes it. And that is what gives us our end result. Now, this customers table is, the code for this is located at the bottom of the screen. You can download it if you want, and you can take a look at it. Now, keep in mind that as you set properties, those properties will also change that T-SQL code. There's more to it. What we did was just created a very simple table. But that is how we create a table using T-SQL. So in this lesson, what we did was we created our database. We went through and we used that database wizard, and we set the name. If we wanted to set the owner, we could. And then we had the different options for the auto growth, or where the file location happens to be. And then we had the three different options, the collation, the recovery, and we also had the third one, which is our backwards compatibility. So those are the things that you will want to set for your database. Once you're finished, it creates it within our list, and now you're ready to start creating our tables. Remember that when you're creating your tables, there are just a few rules that you should follow. The first column that you ever put into your table should be the unique identifier. It should also be an identity field, and that's why I set it to int and also set the identity within our field properties down at the very bottom. You set the data type. We have our 7 different categories for data types. We have our exact numbers, our approximate numbers, date, time, character strings, binary, Unicode, and other. So 7, oh, there we go, other. So you have the 7 different categories that we can work with, and the primary fields that you're going to work with, the primary data types that you're going to work with, are going to be integer, character, variable character. There's another one for date time. Date time is pretty much, like I said, self-explanatory. Those are really the four basic ones that you want. If you know that you're going to use alternate data or alternate character sets, then by all means you want to use your Unicode data types. And all you're doing is you're just literally, for the character sets, you're putting the letter N in front of it, which is saying Unicode. And remember, whenever you're working with Unicode, every character that you enter in is now 2 bytes instead of 1. So that's how we go out and we create our databases and we create our tables. This is where you really start working with SQL Server. Have fun with it. And this is the basic building block for all of our databases.